in a snooker at the start of one of those frames, and the Welshman's failure to escape gifted O'Sullivan a free ball. He potted the green as an extra red before adding his opening black, and he then reeled off 15 reds, 13 more blacks, as well as 2 pinks, before clearing the final 6 colours to record the 153, which beats the previous record that was held by Scotland's Jamie Burnett, who produced a break of 148 at the UK Championship qualifiers 22 years ago. Finally, in Formula One, Jonathan Wheatley has left his position as Audi team principal with immediate effect. This comes a day after news broke that the 58-year-old had been approached by Aston Martin to take over as their new principal. Audi have released a statement saying Wheatley has left for personal reasons. Mattia Binotto will take over Wheatley's responsibilities as team principal whilst also continuing his role as head of the Audi F1 project. The company are taking steps to bring in a more long-term successor to Wheatley, who was in attendance alongside Binotto at an Audi board meeting on Friday. That's all for now. We'll have more later. Here are your latest sport headlines. I'm Tom McGarry, and we begin with football, as Thomas Tuchel has named an expanded 35-man squad for England's upcoming friendlies against Uruguay and Japan, and he says this camp is the last opportunity for players to compete for their ticket to this summer's World Cup. 2 uncapped players have been named. They are Everton's James Garner and Brighton goalkeeper Jason Steele. There are also notable recalls for Manchester United duo Harry Maguire and Kobe Mainu, AC Milan defender Fikayo Tomori, and Leeds striker Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who is back in the fold after more than 5 years. However, there are some notable absentees as well. Trent Alexander-Arnold in particular stands out. The Real Madrid fullback is not involved. Neither is Bournemouth midfielder Alex Scott or Aston Villa forward Ollie Watkins. Elsewhere in football, and Spurs have confirmed that first-choice goalkeeper Guglielmo Vicario will undergo hernia surgery next week, which means a likely return to the starting lineup for Anthony Kinski, who of course was substituted 17 minutes into Spurs' defeat to Atletico Madrid in the first leg of their Champions League round of 16 tie earlier this month. That was a controversial move by Spurs boss Igor Tudor, but it looks like Kinski will be back in the fold, although Vicario is expected to play in Sunday's Premier League relegation battle against Nottingham Forest. Elsewhere, and in snooker, just when you thought Ronnie O'Sullivan couldn't set more records in the sport, well, he has done by recording the highest ever professional break with a knock of 153 in his World Open quarter-final victory over Ryan Day. O'Sullivan won the match 5-0, but he left Day in a snooker at the start of one of those frames, and the Welshman's failure to escape gifted O'Sullivan a free ball. He potted the green as an extra red before adding his opening black, and he then reeled off 15 reds, 13 more blacks, as well as 2 pinks, before clearing the final 6 colours to record the 153, which beats the previous record that was held by Scotland's Jamie Burnett, who produced a break of 148 at the UK Championship qualifiers 22 years ago. Finally, in Formula One, Jonathan Wheatley has left his position as Audi team principal with immediate effect. This comes a day after news broke that the 58-year-old had been approached by Aston Martin to take over as their new principal. Audi have released a statement saying Wheatley has left for personal reasons. Mattia Binotto will take over Wheatley's responsibilities as team principal whilst also continuing his role as head of the Audi F1 project. The company are taking steps to bring in a more long-term successor to Wheatley, who was in attendance alongside Binotto at an Audi board meeting on Friday. That's all for now. We'll have more later. Here are your latest sport headlines. I'm Tom McGarry, and we begin with football, as Thomas Tuchel has named an expanded 35-man squad for England's upcoming friendlies against Uruguay and Japan, and he says this camp is the last opportunity for players to compete for their ticket to this summer's World Cup. Two uncapped players have been named. They are Everton's James Garner and Brighton goalkeeper Jason Steele. There are also notable recalls for Manchester United duo Harry Maguire and Kobe Mainu, AC Milan defender Fikayo Tomori, and Leeds striker Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who is back in the fold after more than 5 years. However, there are some notable absentees as well. Trent Alexander-Arnold in particular stands out. The Real Madrid fullback is not involved. Neither is Bournemouth midfielder Alex Scott or Aston Villa forward Ollie Watkins. Elsewhere in football, and Spurs have confirmed that first-choice goalkeeper Guglielmo Vicario will undergo hernia surgery next week, which means a likely return to the starting lineup for Anthony Kinski, who of course was substituted 17 minutes into Spurs' defeat to Atletico Madrid in the first leg of their Champions League round of 16 tie earlier this month. That was a controversial move by Spurs boss Igor Tudor, but it looks like Kinski will be back in the fold, although Vicario is expected to play in Sunday's Premier League relegation battle against Nottingham Forest. Elsewhere, and in snooker, just when you thought Ronnie O'Sullivan couldn't set more records in the sport, well, he has done by recording the highest ever professional break with a knock of 153 in his World Open quarter-final victory over Ryan Day. O'Sullivan won the match 5-0, but he left Day in a snooker at the start of one of those frames, and the Welshman's failure to escape gifted O'Sullivan a free ball. He potted the green as an extra red before adding his opening black, and he then reeled off 15 reds, 13 more blacks, as well as 2 pinks, before clearing the final 6 colours to record the 153, which beats the previous record that was held by Scotland's Jamie Burnett, who produced a break of 148 at the UK Championship qualifiers 22 years ago. Finally, in Formula One, Jonathan Wheatley has left his position as Audi team principal with immediate effect. This comes a day after news broke that the 58-year-old had been approached by Aston Martin to take over as their new principal. Audi have released a statement saying Wheatley has left for personal reasons. Mattia Binotto will take over Wheatley's responsibilities as team principal, whilst also continuing his role as head of the Audi F1 project. The company are taking steps to bring in a more long-term successor to Wheatley, who was in attendance alongside Binotto at an Audi board meeting on Friday. That's all for now. We'll have more later. Here are your latest sport headlines. I'm Tom McGarry, and we begin with football, as Thomas Tuchel has named an expanded 35-man squad for England's upcoming friendlies against Uruguay and Japan, and he says this camp is the last opportunity for players to compete for their ticket to this summer's World Cup. Two uncapped players have been named. They are Everton's James Garner and Brighton goalkeeper Jason Steele. There are also notable recalls for Manchester United duo Harry Maguire and Kobe Mainu, AC Milan defender Fikayo Tomori, and Leeds striker Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who is back in the fold after more than 5 years. However, there are some notable absentees as well. Trent Alexander-Arnold in particular stands out. The Real Madrid fullback is not involved. Neither is Bournemouth midfielder Alex Scott or Aston Villa forward Ollie Watkins. Elsewhere in football, and Spurs have confirmed that first-choice goalkeeper Guglielmo Vicario will undergo hernia surgery next week, which means a likely return to the starting lineup for Anthony Kinski, who of course was substituted 17 minutes into Spurs' defeat to Atletico Madrid in the first leg of their Champions League round of 16 tie earlier this month. That was a controversial move by Spurs boss Igor Tudor, but it looks like Kinski will be back in the fold, although Vicario is expected to play in Sunday's Premier League relegation battle against Nottingham Forest. Elsewhere, and in snooker, just when you thought Ronnie O'Sullivan couldn't set more records in the sport, well, he has done by recording the highest ever professional break with a knock of 153 in his World Open quarter-final victory over Ryan Day. O'Sullivan won.
United to get us kicked off once Stuart Atwell blows his whistle. This is myself, Luke Ashurst, alongside me is Rob Eddy to take you through all the action of the 90 minutes, which I'm sure there will be plenty of, especially if you take into account the way that the reverse fixture went at Old Trafford. Manchester United, through their captain Bruno Fernandes, have just about got us underway, and Senny Lamans will immediately launch the ball long into Bournemouth territory. I will run you through the lineups in a moment or so in case you missed the pre-game amble. For Bournemouth, just the two changes coming into this one. Jimenez in at right back ahead of Adam Smith, and Amin Adli in for Eli Junior. Krupi for Manchester United. They're unchanged from the victory. Unsurprisingly, unchanged from that 3-1 victory against Aston Villa. Ball bouncing around in the midfield to start off the game. Fernandes eventually gets it under control, linking up with Casemiro. And then it's played onto the left-hand side for Luke Shaw, who was omitted from the 35-man squad by Thomas Tuchel for England in the upcoming friendlies, warm-up games for the World Cup. Man who wasn't was Harry Maguire, and he just ran the ball into midfield, but the ball's been given away by Manchester United, and he's out of position here, Maguire. Evan Nielsen trying to make the most of it. Lenny Yoro's there to put a block in. And a minute into this one, Bournemouth had the first corner of the game. Ball out of play over on the far side, so it looks as though I'd assume it's going to be Tavernier to take it. And indeed it will be, which would suggest it'll be a left-footed in-swinger from the Bournemouth right. Just in case you're wondering, by the way, there is another game that has kicked off at 8 o'clock along with ours. It is in the Championship, however, between Preston and Stoke. That game is available on this service. Try and keep you updated on the score throughout the evening, but the focus will remain on this game in the Premier League. Tavernier will indeed swing this one in. It's towards the near post. Dalot gets a crucial touch away from Evan Nielsen. Now maybe a counter-attack opportunity for Manchester United as Mbermo feeds Ahmad. Although his loose touch sees him forced to cut back on himself. And United have the ball back once again in midfield. Here's Bruno Fernandes, the informed man of the moment for Manchester United. Dalot now trying to bring the ball forward. Has the ball pinched away from him there by Amin Adli. And the Cherries have it back amongst their back four with Marcos Senesi. Senesi across now to James Hill. Over onto the far side for Alex Jimenez. Ball down the line to Tavernier. Looking to try and turn. We'll lay it off to Rayan. Rayan then tries to turn it around the corner for Evan Nielsen. Despite the deflection, as the ball bounced through towards the Bournemouth number 9. The flag does go up for offside. It does give me a chance to run you through the lineups in full. For Bournemouth, it's Petrovic in goal. A back four of Trufer, Senesi, Hill and Jimenez. Midfield two of Christie and Scott, with Adli, Tavernier and Rayan supporting Evan Nielsen through the middle. As for Manchester United, it's Lamans in goal. A back four of Dalot, Yoro, Maguire and Shaw. Midfield two of Casemiro and Mainu, with Amad Diallo, Bruno Fernandes and Mateus Cunha supporting Brian and Mbermo up top. Long free kick, you'd assume to be sent forward here by Senny Lamans, and indeed the Belgian shot stopper will send it long towards Bruno Fernandes. He's been caught from behind there by James Hill as he went to challenge for the ball, holding onto the back of his head. Referee Stuart Atwell waves for play to continue. Long ball sent forward towards Evan Nielsen, evades ahead of the Brazilian, but he can bring it down after a poor touch from Lenny Yoro. Here's Alex Jimenez now for the Cherries. Back to James Hill, edge of the penalty area. Alex Scott now across onto the near side for Senesi. Finds the ball down the left-hand side looking for Amin Adli, whose loose touch allows a challenge to come in from Diogo Dalot. Moves it back inside to Casemiro. Now here's Ahmad. Turns away from Trufer. Lovely skill from the Ivorian. Feeds Brian and Burma. Wants it on his left boot. Gets it on his left boot. But we'll just lay it off to Casemiro. Now here's Kobbie Mainoo. Just inside Bournemouth territory, links up well with Dalot before going back into his own half for Harry Maguire. Maguire then tries to step into midfield once again. His pass towards Fernandes was almost intercepted by Alex Scott, but the United captain will get there and will play a 1-2 between himself and Cunha. Ball sent in towards the back post of everybody, including Adrian Trufer, before Dalot can bring it down. Dalot lays it off to Ahmad. Ahmad away from a couple. Great save from Petrovic. Brilliant stop from the Bournemouth goalkeeper to deny Amad Diallo the opener. And now maybe a counter-attack opportunity for Bournemouth. Here comes Tavernier driving forward. It's a 3-on-3 for Bournemouth. Tavernier, ball in behind. Rayan inside the penalty area. Oh, it's wide of the post. Brilliant move from Bournemouth, moving it from back to front. And Rayan, who's just received his first call-up for the Brazil senior squad, has seen his strike just whistle wide of the post in the end. One chance down to the One chance at one end, straight down the other end. And Bournemouth almost making it 1-0 right after Amad Diallo possibly ought to have made it 1-0 to Manchester United. So lovely ball through to Rayan from Tavernier. And ultimately, Manchester United can breathe a huge sigh of relief because they overcommitted there, looking to try and find the opener. In the end, I actually think Rayan might have been trying to play Evan Nielsen in rather than shooting. He certainly went with his side foot, and ultimately it went just wide of the post. Seems a good opportunity for me to bring in my co-commentator Rob Eddy. It's been a fascinating start to this game already. Both teams with great chances up at the other end of the field. I mean, the reverse fixture finished 4-4. I mean, these two know how to find the back of the net, and already they've both had opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you'd be asking an awful lot to get another 8 goals, but I think Bournemouth have found ways to trouble Manchester United of late. They've been a real sort of bogey side, and they've been hard to beat of late too. Obviously, there'll be a lot of focus on Manchester United going for the top 4, but they know they're in for a game. Already we've seen chances. Maybe you should have done better, Ryan. Obviously, there's been chances at the other end, so the early promise of goals is there. I don't think we'll get 8 though.
No, I'm not entirely sure we will do either, but we can hope and pray, put it that way, from a neutral's point of view. 6 minutes gone at the Vitality Stadium. Independent off-tube studio-based commentary. It's Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. But a really good opportunity for both these two sides already in this one. One falling the way of Amad Diallo, who had his strike saved by Georgi Petrovic. He certainly caught it well, the Manchester United man, but it didn't quite have the direction he possibly would have liked. As for Bournemouth, they went straight down the other end. Rayan being played through one-on-one with Sene Lamens. We'll say that he's gone for goal because it would be the obvious option, although I'm still not entirely convinced he wasn't trying to pass it to Evan Nielsen. Either way, it remains 0-0, and United now looking to try and play out from the back with Harry Maguire. Left-footed ball down the line is a poor one, but it's going to just about stay in as it rolls past the feet of Andoni Iraola, who is unbeaten in his 5 managerial meetings up against Manchester United, which bodes well for Bournemouth going into this one. But as I mentioned earlier on, they are up against the Manchester United side, who under Michael Carrick have lost just the once and have failed to win just twice in his 9 games in charge so far. As things stand though, both sides finally poised. If you look at Michael Carrick's record, Rob, and the way that things have gone for him so far, you'd say he's the ideal candidate for him to take over next season full time. But it feels like the United higher-ups are quite reluctant to really commit to the former Middlesbrough boss.
Yeah, I mean, they've got to bide the time, I suppose, see what the net result is at the end of the season. Obviously, they'd like European football the way it's going. They like Champions League football. That's obviously been a big blow for them this season. Blow in the sense financially and other reasons, but of course it might be benefiting them in the actual Premier League battle for those places. That is an argument. Ruben Amorim struggled with no football, no European football. As Cooney gets down the left, it's a poor cross. They're under pressure. So I think they're biding their time. And of course, the first 2 games were obviously brilliant results, and the way they played was pretty brilliant to the teams coming onto them. But they haven't exactly torn other sides apart. So I still think there is thinking to do. I mean, if he keeps winning, he keeps winning. You can't really argue it. But they haven't beaten sides in the manner they did of Manchester City. And I know the Arsenal game was a little bit tighter, but they impressed in that game as well. And of course, they've just been grinding out results. I think they're in for a game tonight because I think both sides are pressing pretty high up the field. And when they're knocking it around defensively, in the end, there has to be a clearance because I think both sides are pushing pretty high up the field. Manchester United just conceded a free kick on the halfway line.
Yeah, no team have picked up more points in the Premier League since Michael Carrick took over at Manchester United. But they're under a little bit of pressure here, are the Red Devils. That's a decent bit of play from Tavernier on the edge of the box. Brought down from behind there by Casemiro. At least it's seen, but referee Stuart Atwell says no foul. And play will continue with United coming forward. And Burmo lofting one over the top, looking towards Fernandes. It's been read by Petrovic, but he's played the ball straight to Cunha. And here come United once again. Fernandes onto the left-hand side, back to the Brazilian international. Overlapping run from Luke Shaw is found by the former Wolverhampton Wanderers man. Shaw now cuts back onto his weaker right boot right under pressure from Alex Jimenez. Will then try and play an inside ball towards Cunha, but it's a poor one, telegraphed in truth by Manchester United's left back, and ultimately play breaks down. They just almost looked like they were trying to force it there, Manchester United, and ultimately they were unable to even get a shot off on goal. Bournemouth have possession back along the back four once again. They've played along their back four a lot more this evening already than I was really expecting them to. I thought they'd be a fair bit more direct. Just as I say that, Senesi tries to launch a long ball towards Evan Nielsen. A trampoline touch, you'd have to say, gives the ball away though in midfield. And now here come Manchester United once again on the attack. Here's Cunha away from Scott inside the penalty. And Cunha with the strike. Saved at the near post by Georgi Petrovic. Out of play for a corner. 10 minutes gone. United have already had 2 shots on target. They're looking dangerous. It has to be still when they get into the final third. And they've already tested Petrovic twice.
Yeah, he's come up with a good, difficult angle to score from. He's done well to hit the target. It might have been hitting the outside of the post, side netting, but Petrovic's taken no chances. I thought the previous attack, basically Luke Shaw looked up and Bemo was just about in the box, and so that's why he didn't cross. He didn't have enough bodies downfield. Of course, he then gave it away in sloppy fashion. But you could argue Bournemouth have given it straight back to Manchester United, and then they're forced to save with Cunha. Set piece coming up. Plenty of jostling in and around the keeper. They're just spreading out now.
Yeah, ball swung towards the near post. I say swung, it was along the floor and easily dealt with at the near post by Evan Nielsen. It's a poor cross in, it has to be said, by Bruno Fernandes. And in the end, they have to start all the way back with their goalkeeper, Sene Lammens. It's a mark of a poor corner routine, isn't it, when it ends up all the way back at the feet of the goalkeeper. And straight away, Bournemouth had the ball back once again in midfield with Alex Scott. They've gone with quite an attacking midfield, it has to be said, this evening. Have the home side with both Scott and Christie, 2 players that I always think are very good progressors of the football, so it lends itself towards Bournemouth being able to move the ball quickly. That's what they've managed to do so far in this one, although they've given the ball away on a fair few many occasions, and in the end on this occasion Truffet's brought down Brian Mbeumo as he tried to take it away from the French fullback. Manchester United again will look to try and build out from the back. Here it is with Harry Maguire. Square to Lenny Yoro, who hasn't overly been involved so far this evening, and that pass shows maybe why, because he's gone to play the ball down the line. It's been easily cut out by Evan Nielsen, and it's bounced out of play for a throw-in on the United right. Slightly disappointing from Yoro, it has to be said. Mentioned earlier on that there was a championship game going on. It's available on this service, and there's been an early goal in it. Sorba Thomas has given the away side Stoke City the lead, so it's Preston 0, Stoke 1. Both teams almost playing for pride, you'd say, at this stage of the season, it has to be said. But Stoke playing with pride at the moment as Dallo from the throw-in turns away from Alex Scott on the near side, links up with Kobbie Mainoo before firing the ball into Mbeumo. Mbeumo now back to Mainoo, another one of those Manchester United players who've recently been picked by Thomas Tuchel to feature in the upcoming March internationals. Returning to the side, Kobbie Mainoo, and he's just won a free kick there after Marcus Senesi has brought him down. Senesi stepping really quite far out of the back four to challenge Kobbie Mainoo, and in the end Stuart Atwell says that he's brought down the England midfielder unjustly, and that is to be a foul and a free kick to Manchester United. How good is it to see Kobbie Mainoo back in the England side, Rob? We all know how talented he is. He had a really tricky time at the start of the season under Ruben Amorim, but he's been fantastic under Michael Carrick, and well, I would argue thoroughly deserving of that spot in the England side.
Yeah, I mean, United fans will be delighted to have him back in the team. It's amazing how he was just overlooked all of the time. I think it's a good position for a player to be in, because you wouldn't say England were particularly overstocked in the sort of midfield area. I mean, Jordan Henderson, I'm not having to go at Jordan Henderson, but he's getting on a bit, and he's still in the reckoning in many ways, and so I think there's a place there to be won. Kobbie Mainoo will be hoping to get the chance. Manchester United are on the attack right now.
Yeah, lovely fluid football through the midfield. Here's Amad Diallo now on the right hand side, trying to get away from Adrian Truffet. He's doubled up now by Amin Adli as well, but he's done well to hold on to the ball. Here's Amad. Here now is Diogo Dallo, trying a bit of trickery himself to get away from Truffet. He easily has the ball pinched away from him, but his teammate is there to pick the ball up and lay it off to Kobbie Mainoo. Here's Dallo once again into Amad. And back to Lenny Yoro. Bournemouth did well to get bodies back there as United moved quickly through midfield. And in the end, they've forced United to start back along their centre halves. But Cunha's done well to win the ball back, or pick the ball up in midfield, I should say. And he's away from Alex Jimenez inside the penalty, straight towards goal. It's deflected, and Mbeumo then has the ball come off his back. And eventually, Bournemouth can get clear away from the penalty area. But again, United looking dangerous in and around the final third as Maguire's going to go on another one of those runs through midfield. It's the third time he's done that this evening now, try and step into midfield. He has to be careful, Harry Maguire, when he does that, because the second time he did it, Casemiro was there to drop in, but the first and third time he wasn't, and he has to be careful as the ball's played up to him. Mbeumo, strike from Fernandes! It's spilled by Petrovic, but he just about gets up there in time to get there ahead of Brian Mbeumo. That ball was far too easy for Fernandes just to turn around the corner to Mbeumo and then receive it back off of the Cameroonian. Bournemouth look a little bit messy, I think, in the middle section of the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, they're getting shots off and on target, Manchester United. I mean, they do work nicely, or they can work nicely with a bit of pace in the attack there. You don't really want to be giving Bruno Fernandes space in and around the D. He's hit the target. It's not a bad shot, but of course it's not right in the corner. It's arcing in towards the keeper. Petrovic made a bit of a meal of it because it looked fairly comfortable. But all three United shots have tested Petrovic so far. Of course, there's a pretty good chance for Bournemouth in their one attempt up to this point. But Manchester United just starting to perhaps get on top a little bit. I think Bournemouth are struggling with possession, trying to get out. There isn't an out ball at the moment. I think in the early stages you saw gaps that they were trying to exploit, and they did look to be there. But at the moment, as I say, United are in the ascendancy. Bournemouth actually have a throw-in fairly high up the field.
Yeah, they do. And they've got an opportunity to get this one into the penalty area because James Hill's drying it off under his shirt. He's not quite Michael Coyote, James Hill, but he's got one of the longer throws in the Premier League, it has to be said, so something for Manchester United to be wary of. Hill swings this one in towards Senesi at the near post, header one in the end though by Maguire. Cunha will gather, and he'll float a ball onto the near side for Amad Diallo, and he'll get there ahead of Adrian Truffert, and he's one-on-one with the Frenchman. Here is Amad, got the overlapping run of Diogo Dalot, uses the Portuguese international, first time ball into Fernandes, straight towards goal, crucial block from Marcus Tavernier. That is fantastic defending from the Bournemouth midfielder, got back just in the nick of time as Fernandes arrived late into the penalty area. They looked in real trouble, did the Cherries, and in the end, Tavernier, alert to the danger, puts out a play for a corner.
Yeah, great play. Great overlap and run as well from Dalot, and a lovely weighted ball into the path of Fernandes. Like you say, it was brilliant covering from Tavernier because they did get caught exposed. There was 2-on-1 situation for Truffert to deal with. He didn't close down either Diallo or indeed Dalot. Decent block.
Fernandes born towards the 6-yard box, headed away again by Evan Nielsen. He's been not great going forward for Bournemouth, but defensively he's been pretty useful inside the penalty area. Here's Fernandes back with the ball once again. Ball looking towards Kobbie Mainoo on the edge of the penalty area. It's a poor one. It's been won back by Tavernier. Now Bournemouth can come forward on the counter-attack as Adley is under pressure from Shaw, although he's lost out to the former Southampton man. United have it back once again in midfield. 17.5 minutes gone at the Vitality. Independent Tube studio-based commentary. Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. It's the away side though that have had the majority of the ball, have had the better of the chance, and they've tested the goalkeeper a couple of times as well. As long ball sent forward looking towards Fernandes, is cut out well by Hill. Mainoo then gathers in midfield, looks towards Cunha on the far side. Bit of frustration shown there from the Manchester United number 37. He wanted Cunha to show for it, and in the end Cunha made the wrong run and the ball just trickles out of play for a throw-in. Here's Truffert on the near side for Bournemouth. Back to Marco Senesi. Ball swung over onto the far side now for Hill, who will open his body and chip a long one down the other end of the pitch looking for Rayan. Shaw wins the header though. Maguire will gather and will knock it back to Lamons. An uncomfortable back to the Belgian goalkeeper, but he controls it well with his thigh and plays it back to Maguire. Maguire ball down the line looking towards Fernandes as a poor one. Cuts out well by Jimenez. Here's Scott now. Lays it off to Tavernier. Tavernier got options inside the penalty area, looking, I think, towards the late run of Christie, but it's been cut out well by Yoro. Rayan then wins the header as Maguire hits the deck inside the penalty area. And I think, Rob, it's fair to say that's slightly generous to Harry Maguire as he hits the deck under pressure from Evan Nielsen.
Yeah, I mean, he's gone down a little bit softly, but I don't think Evan Nielsen's winning the ball there, so he's trying to put Maguire off, and he did, in the sense that he wasn't particularly good control, but he's kind of in the back, and I think the referee's always going to give that in pressure situations, not so much on the halfway line perhaps. And of course that high press for Bournemouth, when it was turned over by the initial pass, they've got bodies in and around the box. That's a dangerous situation. The first cross wasn't good enough though from the Cherries, and United were able to clear it. But because they press so high, they do have bodies downfield as Mbeumo wins a corner kick, I believe. I'm just wondering because it appears that Jimenez is having a chat with Stuart Atwell. It looked to have come off the Bournemouth player last. I think it's a corner, and Christie's pointing out something else.
Yeah, they're not happy at Bournemouth. There's at least 3 or 4 that surrounded Stuart Atwell after he gave the corner kick decision. Let's see from the replay. And Bournemouth, plays it into Marcos Senesi. I'm not entirely sure where the appeals are coming from there. That's a really odd one. Senesi clearly feeling that it came back off of Mbeumo, but it very clearly didn't. And now United have got a chance from the corner. Fernandez this time goes towards the back post. Good clearance, I thought, initially from Petrovic. Then Maguire struck towards goal. It's gone sideways. Fernandez recycles. Here's Cunha. Strike from distance, headed up into the air by James Hill. And Evan Nielsen will put it out of play for a throw-in over on the far side. I thought initially Petrovic had done really well to palm the ball away, but he went straight to Maguire and his shot went sideways.
Yeah, it was too high as well. It was a terrible effort from Maguire. I think the saving thing for him and Petrovic was the fact it bounced quite high. So it was almost a scissor kick volley trying to get it towards goal, but it was over the bar and wide of the post. It actually stayed in play. I thought it was a poor attempt from Petrovic because he's got a hand on it. Deal with it. He's knocked it about 2 yards.
Yeah, it wasn't great from Petrovic in hindsight. Dalot long throw into the penalty area won't matter because the referee's blown for a free kick, which Bournemouth take quickly, although it's not a great one, headed back by Ahmad to Luke Shaw, and he'll go all the way back to Senny Lamans. And you thought maybe that was a chance for Bournemouth just to keep a hold of the ball for a couple of minutes and get back into some shape, but they tried to play it quickly on the counter-attack and make ash of it, and now United have got the ball back again once more. Here's Luke Shaw over onto the far side for Matheus Cunha. Down the line for Fernandez. He's been challenged well by Hill. Strike comes in from distance from Rayan. And a save from Lamans tips it wide for a corner. First shot on target from Bournemouth, and it certainly stung the hands of the Belgian international. And, Rayan, who just received his first call-up to the Brazil national side, almost found himself with a fantastic goal to open the scoring.
Yeah, he could have crossed it, and so it's arcing in towards the post. Left-footed strike. It started wide of the post, and, of course, you think going for that near post, he's going to hit it the other way. Perhaps with an instep, but no, he's drilled it low and hard. It's an excellent stop from Lamans. Of course, it's near post. You expect those to be made, but he might not have been expecting it. And he's done well. 2 hands safely pushed it around the post. But now it's a corner for the Cherries.
Yeah, corner swinging by Tavernier again towards the back post. Senesi was up, so was Maguire. And Maguire will clear only as far as Christie, 20 yards away from goal. Now here's True Fair. Tempted ball back into the penalty area. Deflected off the chest of Brian Mbeumo and into the hands of Senny Lamans, who looked like he wanted to get United going quickly, but he's thought better of it. Definitely had the ball in his hand for longer than 8 seconds there, but referee Stuart Atwell lets it go as he plays it out to Kobe Mainu. It's in now to Dalot, who tries to turn the ball around the corner first time. Mistake from the Portuguese international, almost punished as the ball comes in from Tavernier. Evan Nielsen hits the deck. Referee says no penalty. Play will continue with Bournemouth in possession. Here's Rayan over on the far side, one-on-one with Luke Shaw. Fernandez coming across to support. Rayan ball to box. Tavernier wide of the post. VAR will of course have a look. Maguire, I think it was, that made contact with Evan Nielsen. It all comes from Dalot's mistake. Tavernier with the ball in. How big is the contact? I mean, it's 2 hands on the back of Evan Nielsen. How strong of a push it is, I'm not too sure. But we saw a similar decision given the way of Barcelona midweek against Newcastle for a pullback on Rafinha. I think Maguire may get away with this one.
Yeah, well, there's not much in it. There's 2 hands there. I won't call it a push. And he's overrun the ball anyway. Whether that matters in a referee or a VAR official's eyes, I don't know. But that's not the first time that Manchester United have given the ball away in dangerous positions. Dalot did it there. Fernandez has done it. And they need to buck their ideas up if they don't want to just gift Bournemouth an opening goal, because there's still chances. I mean, the chance for Tavernier, he's almost trapped the ball into the ground. He's found a pocket of space, a better ball in this time. And the finish was poor because he's 6-7 yards out and he's kind of just miscontrolled it wide of the post as opposed to shoot. And it's stemming from Manchester United mistakes. So Bournemouth very much in this game at the moment.
Yeah, they are. They've given the ball away poorly though. Petrovic with an overhit pass looking for Senesi, and it's meant that Dallo's got a chance to throw this ball in long towards the penalty area. Not properly dealt with on the first occasion. Eventually, Truffert will gather on the near side after Maguire and Yoro were challenging for it. Truffert will then chip one long looking towards Evan Nielsen. Good header from Kobbie Mainoo to get the ball to Amad Diallo. He'll then launch a long left-footed ball back to Senny Lamond, who was backpedaling there just a little bit to allow the ball to bounce before he brought it down. He'll then send a long ball forward looking towards Mbermo. Easy header to be won though by James Hill, as Scott now will gather in midfield, tries to link up with Jimenez, but a poor pass from the Spaniard sees Fernandes regain possession for United. Here he is now looking to try and link up with Cunha. Cunha's made a decent run down the left hand side. That's not a bad ball in. Amad with the strike. Good block from Truffert. Out of play for a corner. Brilliant defending from the Frenchman, but good from Manchester United again.
Yeah, good defending in the end to get the block in. I thought he was going to go first time, particularly as he's on his left foot. I think Cunha's been a live wire in there, that left-hand side. He's not always put a good ball in, and maybe that actually, looking at a replay, should have been dealt with. It was a rather timid sort of attempt to clear it, and Diallo took a touch. Maybe he was surprised that the Bournemouth defender missed it, but he was closed down well, and it's only a corner.
Outswinger coming in from Bruno Fernandes on this near side. It's towards the near post. Heads go up, players hit the deck, and Burmo will then strike towards goal. It's been cleared away towards the halfway line, and Manchester United will have to restart in midfield. It's been a fantastic start to the game, it has to be said, at the Vitality Stadium. Back and forth, United just about on top, but it remains level at 0-0, and I'm going to hand it over to Rob to take us through to half-time.
It is Luke. And more shots for Manchester United. 7-3, 3 on target to 1. But interestingly, the XG is in Bournemouth's favour. And they're on the attack with Evan Nielsen through the middle. He's got pace out wide with Ryan. But Ryan was worried about going offside, and so he halted his run. Luke Shaw intercepts and clears. But Cunha's under pressure deep inside his own half, trying to get away from Jimenez. Does, down the line to Diallo. Mainoo closed down by Scott. Real fight for possession. It's Bournemouth who come away with it. But a bit of a block from Casemiro has allowed Cunha to pick up a loose ball, and the Brazilian drills it out towards Diallo on the left at the moment. This time it's better defending from Hill, almost backheels it into touch to prevent Diallo having space down that left hand side.
He picks the wrong option there, Matheus Cunha. He's either got to keep dribbling it forward or look towards Fernandes on the right-hand side. He tries to play a pass which he's never really on. They're decoy runs more than anything from Amad Diallo and Brian Mbermo, just to allow him to continue to carry the ball forward. Really poor decision from Matheus Cunha there.
Throwing is halfway inside the Bournemouth half, and they've taken it short, obviously, as Cunha finds Mainoo. Dallop's in a bit of space. He's a good 30 yards out, and I think the ball went just as high over the crossbar. Might have been between the uprights, but nowhere near the target. It's another shot, and that's about it as far as Manchester United are concerned. Into the 28th minute, still goalless at the Vitality Stadium, but there have been chances at both ends, and maybe Bournemouth's have been a touch better, thinking of the Rayan one and the Tavernier one, as Casemiro's caught wrong side, took on the shoulder, and that's a yellow card.
He's just said to Stuart Outwell, no chance. That is a textbook yellow card from Casemiro. He's caught wrong side of Rayan, I think it is, that skips away from him, and he just pulls him back. He says no chance, but it's his 8th yellow card of the season, and rightly so.
Yellow card for Casemiro, the first of the game. It's his 8th of the season. Free kick's only just inside the United half. Scott is stood over it, right near the touchline. And Maguire's trying to push United's defensive line out a little bit further. Started probably just on the edge of the D. Launched into the box. Dallow heads away. Picked up by Christie, but he's closed down quickly. Has to go back to the halfway line. Jimenez. Now Scott will pump it in the direction of the penalty spot again. Good leap from Hill, but better one from Maguire to clear the danger momentarily. Picked up by Scott for the Cherries. Christie plays it back to the halfway line. This is a concerted spell of possession in high up the pitch as well for Bournemouth. Maybe the most concerted so far. 29 minutes almost completed at the Vitality. And it's now back on the halfway line with Scott across to Jimenez on the right hand side. Ryan is keeping the width on that side, closed down by Luke Shaw. Back to Jimenez. I think they're all in the United are barring Petrovic at the moment. Hill right on the halfway line, finds the run of Christie, who's put under pressure by Mainu. So again, it's back towards Hill. Better ball finding Scott in a pocket of space, working it out to Ryan, one-on-one with Shaw. Instead, he opts to try and play the pass in, a triple ricochet, and then I think it's given as a handball against Bournemouth, which seemed a bit unfortunate. Ryan was thinking about shooting from 25 yards out, but a bit of pinball, and the referee has spotted a handball. It didn't even look like it was a handball either.
No, and the fact that the referee took so long to make that decision would suggest that it probably wasn't. It took a fourth United player to stop playing and turn around and say that's a handball for him to blow the whistle, which should not be the case whatsoever. And if you're Rayan, you're probably quite frustrated, to be honest. But half hour gone, and United seemingly have the game in their grasp. They just need to show a little bit more quality in decision making.
Diallo on the right now for Manchester United. For a moment, he popped up on the left. Early ball towards Fernandez. Oh, he's just pirouetted and lost the fly of the ball. I think both defenders did as well, Hill and Senesi. And in the end, it bounces behind Fernandez to Petrovic. That could have been a little bit more embarrassing. The crossfield pass attempt from Jimenez goes sailing into touch. Manchester United have a throw-in on the halfway line, but that was almost a chance for Fernandez.
Yeah, it certainly was. I think it's one of those where, like you said, he just loses sight of the ball in the air and can't quite bring it down. It would have been a really difficult ball to bring down anyway. Made even more difficult when you don't know where it is. But yeah, almost too easy for United to play that ball into the penalty area. And you feel something Bournemouth have to address. I've always found it really odd to see Senesi constantly starting at centre half this season when I just don't think he's got the composure to play in this Bournemouth system, but Iraola seems to love him, and alongside James Hill they don't tend to be absolutely battered.
Bournemouth on the attack again with Christie, who pings in across too deep. He had time and space. He realised Mainu was trying to close him down and then whipped it in with a bit of pace, but unfortunately got underneath it, and that's gone behind for a goal kick. We did mention the other game. Sorba Thomas put Stoke in front, but that lead has, well, it was wiped out fairly swiftly. Alfie Devine with the equaliser. That was in the 15th minute. So similar game time to this one into or beyond the half an hour mark. 1-1 at Deepdale in the Championship game. Bournemouth back in possession with True Fair. Halfway inside the United half, Christie behind him. Now across the Hill, inviting him forward, right off the centre circle, out to Rayan. First time ball into Tavernier is a little bit heavily controlled by the Bournemouth man, so he's forced away from goal. And they have possession back, the Cherries, just on the halfway line, with Hill bringing it forward. Low ball up towards Evan Nilsson, but it's cleared by Yoro. Again, the accuracy not quite there. Shaw and Maguire have possession between them, but they're making a bit of a meal of clearing their lines, and Fernandez loses out. Now it's with Ryan, right wing. Well, again, one-on-one with Luke Shaw. Plays it safe, back towards Scott. Infield to Tavernier, and back to the centre circle with Hill to Scott. Manchester United not pressing particularly strongly, and so it's controlled and comfortable possession for the Cherries at the moment. Obviously not particularly close to the edge of the box right now, as Adley offloads to True Fair, back towards the halfway line, and Senesi, he'll go into the box, asking Evan Nielsen to get there ahead of Maguire. He can't, but Maguire heads into touch, throw in pretty much on the corner flag for Bournemouth. The game going into the 34th minute, 0-0, but good little spell for the Cherries.
Yeah, this is what I think they needed, just a bit of a period on the ball to try and move it from side to side, adjust to what doesn't seem to be overly difficult conditions, but they keep playing the ball out of play when they try to move it quickly. So I don't know, maybe there is a bit of a breeze on the south coast. We can't tell in our pictures, but yeah, I think this is the spell they needed.
Long throw into the middle. Maguire heads away. Laman's got himself into a difficult spot there, nowhere near the ball. It's cleared well again by Mbamo, picked up by Jimenez. Halfway inside the United half. True Fair goes low, but it's blocked by Diallo, who's now bringing it clear for Manchester United. It's 3-on-3, and Cunha into Diallo, into the box. box. Oh, it's a heavy first touch. He's got away from him. He was one-on-one with the keeper. Had he controlled it, he's still got possession, but now on the edge of the right edge of the area, under hits a pass to Dalot, rides the challenge of Adley. Now a cross comes in from Fernandez, headed away by Jimenez, only as far as Mainu. Fernandez forward to Casemiro. Now Dalot down at the channel, looking for Acuna. Gets there. Pulls it back to Casemiro, to Fernandez, shot driven into the chest, I think, of Tavernier again. The ball ricochets up towards Luke Shaw, back on the halfway line. Mainu into the feet of Casemiro. Diallo in the box, out to Dalot, dinks it towards the far post, arriving late, volleyed, saved on the line. Manchester United are appealing. Atwell's looking at his watch, the signal hasn't gone. Good save from Petrovic again. The better chance obviously was Diallo, but still, that was a free shot. The angle not conducive to finding the back of the net. Bournemouth aren't standing on ceremony. They're coming forward. Cross charged down by Casemiro. Only to Adley. His cross charged down too, but it's behind for a corner kick. And Petrovic with another save.
Yeah, and rightly so. He celebrates as the ball's down the other end of the field. It's a fantastic stop from the Serbian. He's had his critics this season. It's a really firm effort from Fernandez. He does the right thing, tries to put it back where Petrovic has come from. And in the end, Petrovic does really well to shift his balance and just stick a leg out as he's falling into his own goal. It's a really, really top save. Going back to that earlier chance, though, or what should have been an earlier chance for Amad Diallo. If he wasn't so one-footed, it would have probably been 1-0 to Manchester United. Tries to control it inexcusably with his left boot, and it comes off his shin. Real waste.
Scott with a corner in for Bournemouth. Is whipped in near post, head away by Mbamo, and as far as Truffert, who drills it towards goal, and Lamens makes the save. It was pretty much straight at him, but it went over defenders, and he might have seen it late. A little bit of dip. Dallo actually motioned towards the ball. It could have been off-putting. You would say it would have been a howler had it beaten Lamens. It hasn't, and it remains 0-0. That's 11 shots to 4 in Manchester United's favour. A second one on target for Bournemouth. And the XG has swung in United's favour now. 0.6 to 0.39. That wasn't the case after a raft of shots, but two pretty big chances. Obviously Diallo didn't pull the trigger on his. The attack was alive, and good save from Petrovic to deny Fernandez. Still 0-0. We might have had 8 goals in this game on another day. 6 on target, 15 shots in total, that is. But so far the keepers have been up to what's been asked of them. Bournemouth back in possession, albeit a lot deeper now. Senesi closed down by Mbamo, goes back to Petrovic, who'll launch it long. Rayan was the target. Poor header from Shaw. I don't know if you got the shout from Maguire. He's missed Maguire. Now Evan Nielsen's picked it up, but the Tavernier goes into the box, and it was the attempted target, but Lenny Yoro turned and intercepted, and clears for United up to the halfway line. Fernandez finds Cunha. This time Cunha can't get the better of Jimenez. The Cherries back in possession with Scott. Closed down by opposite number Fernandez. Bournemouth possession around the halfway line. Again, the press isn't really down. There's enough Cherries defenders to negotiate whoever might close them down. And now Senesi's bringing it forward for Bournemouth. He's still going. 25 yards out. Pings in a cross that's deep, and Luke Shaw taking no chances. He puts it behind. Another corner kick to Bournemouth.
Yeah, and they're lucky there, Bournemouth, because again it's another really poor lofted ball looking towards the danger zone. Evan Nielsen nowhere near it. Through no fault of his own, and Shaw just chooses not to take any risks and put it out of play for a corner, but he probably had time to swivel his body and try and volley it down the other end of the field. Feels like the game is maybe lacking a little bit of quality at the moment. This corner's been taken short, which is my least favourite thing in football, I'll be honest.
They work a couple of 1-2s out on the right hand side, and then it's tried to be drilled into the box by Christie, cleared by Fernandez, and he was actually trying to pass the ball downfield, intercepted. Could argue it's another giveaway from Bruno Fernandes. Not his first in the game, but he's won the ball back in terms of a throw-in. He tackled Adley. It ricocheted off Adley. Throw-in given in United's favour. Adley can't believe it. It was right in front of the assistant referee, but it remains 0-0 at the Vitality. 54% possession to 46 in United's favour. It had been higher than that. And the last 10 minutes or so, Bournemouth certainly have seen a lot more of the ball. Led to a couple of shooting opportunities. But United have still posted their danger, their threat. Maguire beats Evan Nilsson in the air, picked up by Casemiro, but he can't turn Christie, loses out, doesn't get a free kick either that he was kind of begging the referee for. Christie turns, drills it up towards Evan Nilsson, half intercepted by Yoro, and then helped further downfield. Well, then Bournemouth have got a free kick. Manchester United thought they'd won the ball. Free kick in a very dangerous position, within 30 yards, maybe right of the D. And Tavernier's gone down. Decent position.
It is a decent position. Whenever there's a player with the surname Tavernier on the pitch, a position like this tends to be a decent one, especially when it's Marcus, because he's left-footed and it's just off to the right-hand side of the D of the penalty area. So this is a decent position. Having said that, Marcus Tavernier is still on his haunches on the deck. It didn't look too firm of a challenge. I was a little bit surprised when the referee did blow for a free kick. Senny Lammens is just organising his wall at the moment. Tavernier not even in conversation to strike this. Now he comes over as Senesi moves away. Adley and Scott are the interested parties. Adley's then moved away as Jimenez comes in for a conversation. You'd probably say it's 30 yards out, maybe 35. It's one of those where it's not quite perfect, but I would still argue it's a shooting opportunity where you look to just try and test the goalkeeper because he's not really at a crossing angle. Fernandez in the wall. Christie stood next to him, so Bournemouth are setting up a wall for themselves. Alex Scott now seems the most interested to hit this, which is interesting.
Yeah, Scott the righty, Tavernier the lefty. They both step up and it's Tavernier who strikes and he finds the top corner, sort of. It's not travelling quick enough. Lemons is across, claims it comfortably, pats it down and just collects the loose ball. Not a bad free kick, but the keeper had seen it early enough to make that early move across. Launched downfield towards Mbemo, but he's outnumbered on the halfway line. Bournemouth have it back into the 42nd minute. Still goalless at the Vitality, but certainly chances at both ends. Possession fairly even now. Bournemouth second best in that regard in the first half of this half, but turning it around in the second as they come forward again with Ryan down the right hand side. Goes past Cooney, trying to get round the outside of Shaw, who half blocks his cross, picked up by Yoro. Now up towards Mbamo, offloads towards Casemiro, challenged by Christie, ball out to Cooney, who is under pressure, so he launches it long, and Mbamo beaten in the air. Casemiro is still down. Play continues. Bournemouth in possession with Senesi towards Tavernier, who just flicked it past Evan Nilsson, to Evan Nilsson rather, and went. The return pass doesn't quite come, and now Manchester United try and clear. Heavy touch from Mbamo, almost gifted Bournemouth back, but Cooney's got on the loose ball. Now he's driving forward and then overruns it himself, and a little bit of frustration between both Mbamo and Cooney, and now a little bit out of position as Bournemouth attack down that right hand side. Bit of space popping up for Adley in a central position. That's allowed Truffert to get down the left wing. He delays his cross and then floats it in with no real pace, no real purpose. Another easy claim for Lamont.
Yeah, comfortable goalkeeping in the end. It's not had too difficult of a first half. Senny Lamont. Be a little bit concerned if I was Michael Carrick going into half time, because I think his side have played actually really quite well. I've been impressed with Manchester United. I think they look, I mean, it's easy to say now because it's Carrick's 10th game in charge, and it's a while since Amorim was the manager, but they do look a completely different side. They look a side full of confidence. But in the last 5 or 10 minutes or so, they've been showing quite a few shades of frustration. I get that they'll be annoyed that they're not 1-0 up, but they are playing some superb football. And the way that they're liking to play football, 1-2 touch passes, it's not always going to come off perfectly. Having said that, here come Bournemouth now down the left.
Yeah, Truffert in space, goes round Dallop, got to the byline and just overran it. In fact, it's Adley, I beg his pardon. He slipped as he was trying to cross. He almost didn't keep it in because of the slip, but it's gathered by Lamons once again. Fernandez finds Diallo, who's been quiet for a little period. Gets to the halfway line before offloading to Fernandez. It goes long towards Mbemo, but easily cleared by Senesi up to the halfway line. And Scott has it forward to home side. Eases it forward to Tavernier, who's got Ryan again hugging that right touchline. Back inside to Jimenez. Scott's in space, finds it at the edge of the D, but it's beyond Christie, and Manchester United try and clear. Diallo didn't beat man number 1, but the tackle is going across the pitch, eventually falls at the feet of Bruno Fernandes, and the Red Devils have it back, although Diallo's first touch puts himself under pressure, so the pass is backwards. Maguire up towards the halfway line, Cunha in a little battle with Jimenez. Casemiro goes to ground. The referee might be playing an advantage because Manchester United still have it. Cunha's bringing it forward. He's lacking support, really. Has to wait for Fernandes. 30 yards out, central position. Dinked into the box, brought down by Cunha. No, he's slightly miscontrolled that again, so he's actually brought it down for himself, taking it to the right touchline. Back inside to Diallo, trying to work a 1-2 with Fernandes. It looked as though the return pass was too heavy, but Jimenez just stabbed it away from the potential of reaching Diallo, and it's a Manchester United corner.
Yeah, good defending from Alex Jimenez. I'm not suggesting they should make this change at half-time because I think United have been the better of the two sides. I just think this is a game that will see Benjamin Sesko really benefit or really thrive in, to be honest. I think United are missing that sort of focal point through the middle, somebody to occupy Marcus Senesi, because I don't think he's a particularly calm-headed centre-back, and I think if you give him a player to deal with one-on-one, he's going to find himself losing more often than not. So I do think this game is set up for Benjamin Sesko sooner rather than later, with Mbeumo just not really offering that focal point through the middle that I personally think that United would benefit from.
1 minute of added time, which the game is into. The corner headed away near post. Shaw picks it up, find Mbeumo 30 yards out, feeding it back out to Bruno Fernandes. Infield to Maino. Has to turn to get away from Scott. Obviously plenty of defenders still back for Bournemouth, plenty of attackers up for Manchester United. Poor left-footed cross by for Fernandes, Bruno Fernandes rather. And now there's a potential to break on as Ryan and Cunha in a race for the ball right hand side. Cunha finds himself in the left back position after that corner. Christie bringing it forward from the halfway line. Ryan's still in space, but it's coming in a more central position. Senesi feeding out to the left hand side, and Truffert back to Tavernier. I keep mispronouncing his name, don't I? Tavernier 1-2 with Truffert. Away from goal at the moment. Now it's clipped in towards the far post. First header won by Shaw, but it's gone more up in the air. Helped out of the area by Casemiro. But Bournemouth, well, as I was going to say, that was a terrible pass from Rayan. He smashed it into the ground, but the half-time whistle has gone. At the break, Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0.
Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with an early, forcing an early save out of Georgi Petrovic before Rayan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandes as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgi Petrovic. Rayan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with an early, forcing an early save out of Georgi Petrovic before Rayan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandes as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgi Petrovic. Rayan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with an early, forcing an early save out of Georgi Petrovic before Rayan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandes as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgi Petrovic. Rayan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with an early, forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with an early, forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with an early, forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with an early, forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with an early, forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with an early, forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with an early, forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with an early, forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with an early, forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with an early, forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with an early, forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with an early, forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with an early, forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with an early, forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with an early, forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with an early, forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with an early, forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with an early, forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with an early, forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with an early, forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post. Cunha's then forced a couple of saves out of Petrovic, as has Fernandez as well. Namely, one saved off of the line from Georgie Petrovic. Ryan has caused some issues as well, but ultimately at half-time, it is still Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Half-time at the Vitality is Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 0. Been a thrilling first half, it has to be said, on the south coast. Chances for both sides, and they came early on as well. Amad Diallo with forcing an early save out of Georgie Petrovic before Ryan came forward on the counter-attack and had his shot just wide of the post.
And it's very warm welcome back to this independent off-tube studio-based commentary of this Premier League fixture at the Vitality Stadium between Bournemouth and Manchester United. The two sides went in at half-time. It's still level at 0-0. We've just got underway for the second half with Marcus Tavernier getting the home side started. It's myself, Luke Ashurst, alongside me is Rob Eddy to take you through the remaining 45 minutes. And well, Rob, no changes at half-time, so we're as we were in terms of players on the pitch. But any tactical tweaks you might think, do you think that either manager could have made to potentially see their side take an edge in this one? Or do you think both managers just said, continue as you were? I'll bring in Rob in a second, actually, because here come Manchester United on an early attack. Cunha slips to Mbeumo just wide, and ultimately that pass may have just been overhit because Petrovic is there to gather as Mbeumo is forced towards the byline.
Yeah, I think both sides will be happy in the sense that both could have easily scored. I suppose tactically they might be a little bit upset defensively as Bournemouth go straight on the attack with Adley pulls it back. Tavernier's facing the wrong way as the shot comes in from about 25 yards out from Christie. Can't keep it down over the bar. But I mean, it created chances that you'd think offensively they're not going to change an awful lot. It's a question of whether they can tighten up at the back. Both keepers called into action. You mentioned one obvious potential change, Šeško coming on for Manchester United at some point. I thought United started the half quite well, but I would say that they kind of petered out in that first half. Thought that was a decent chance for Mbeumo moments ago, but he was making sure that I think it was Jimenez couldn't track his run, so he almost ran too flat and then had to quickly turn almost 90 degrees and then couldn't deliver a good enough cross. That's given away by Cunha, perhaps not helped out by Luke Shaw. Bournemouth have it back.
Yeah, it was a really entertaining first half between these two. Both sides would have felt that they had the chances to go ahead, but they did go in at half-time level, and I will run you through the lineups in a moment or so. We're just going to wait for this second half to calm down, because Bournemouth now looking to try and get on the attack. Long ball sent forward towards Evan Nielsen. He's easy plucked out the air by Lammens, and straight away United want to get things moving quickly, with Lammens quickly bowling it out to Maguire. He'll feed the ball down the line, well, I thought towards Cunha, but Cunha's made a run inside, so Jimenez will easily intercept. And Bournemouth now back in possession once again, this time with Alex Scott. Here is now Alex Jimenez, the Spain under-21 international. The Spanish under-21 side haven't announced their squad for the upcoming internationals just yet, but you'd expect the Bournemouth fullback to be amongst those going away with the B team, so to speak, as Ahmad trying to intercept that pass off of Adrian Truffert over on the far side. He's unable to do so as the ball bounced out of play for a throw-in, but it would appear that the throw-in's gone the way of Manchester United. And it's Diogo Dalot with the ball in hand. A reminder that there is another game in England that kicked off at 8 o'clock along with ours. It's currently Preston 1, Stoke 1 in the Championship. That game available on this service along with ours. But our focus between me and Rob at least will remain on this game between Bournemouth and Manchester United, as Truffert picks the ball up over on the far side after a long ball towards Amad Diallo. Looking for options around, and we'll play it down the line towards Evan Nielsen. The Brazilian holds it up well and links up brilliantly with Truffert. And here's Truffert charging down the left-hand side into the penalty area, trying to square it towards Tavernier, intercepted well by Maguire, who trapped the run brilliantly, and United can look to try and play through the midfield. Here's Casemiro, ball into Fernandes, turns it around the corner, I thought well, looking towards Cunha, intercepted well by Jimenez, and the ball back at the feet of Georgi Petrovic. I will now, though, run you through the lineups for both sides. For Bournemouth, it's Petrovic in goal, a back four of Truffert, Senesi, Hill and Jimenez, midfield two of Scott and Christie, with Adley, Tavernier and Rayan supporting Evan Nielsen up front. As for Manchester United, it's Lammens in goal, a back four of Dalot, Yoro, Maguire and Shaw, midfield two of Meno and Casemiro, with Amad Diallo, Bruno Fernandes and Mateus Cunha supporting Brian and Mbeumo up top. Bournemouth now looking to come forward again, although Evan Nielsen, who all of a sudden looked like he was ahead of Diogo Dalot there, then started running in treacle and very quickly slowed down, with Dalot able to get there ahead of the Brazilian. That looked a decent ball towards the former Porto man, but ultimately not close enough. But Bournemouth get the ball back once again. United playing the ball long an awful lot already in this second half, and Bournemouth seems to be winning those balls more often than not. And Rayan now with the ball on the right side tries to cross the ball, and it's been headed away by Maguire, but a chance for a long throw for James Hill now on the near side. I thought the United's 1 and 2 touch passing was really fruitful in the midfield. It did give the ball away a couple of times, but they moved it through quite well. Now all of a sudden they seem to be looking towards Maguire and Menu to send the ball long over the top towards Mbeumo. It just doesn't seem to be working at the moment.
Yeah, they're struggling to get numbers downfield. I mean, Mbeumo's just won a couple of flick-ons, but I think Bournemouth are letting him flick on because there's nobody gone ahead of him. So a strange move as the long throw comes in. It's headed up in the air, punched away by Lammens. His shot comes in from Scott. That's charged down. Double ricochet. It's back. It's gone wide of the post. I think it will be a goal kick. There's a Bournemouth player down. Did look as though Lammens punched the ball. Adley's being helped up by Harry Maguire. And looking at a replay. Yeah, he's punched the ball. His elbow is unfortunately caught Adley. Difficult to give a penalty for that, I reckon, given that he has punched the ball. But others might disagree.
Yeah, nothing too untoward there, I don't think, in that situation. I think Stuart Atwell's read it well. It's one of those where the goalkeeper very much gets the ball, and because he has to extend his arm, there's always going to be a chance that he catches the player in the process. And on that occasion, Amin Adley was caught by Sonny Lammens,
but he's all right to continue by looks. That's a terrible goal kick from the Belgian international. He's just hoofed the ball straight out of play for a Bournemouth throwing over on the far side. And the Cherries now will look to try and come forward, although Truffaire's given the ball away. Here's Mbermo now trying to link up with Fernandes. Eventually he gets the ball to the Portuguese international, and he plays a nice switch to Shaw. Left hand side, Luke Shaw trying to square it across towards Cunha. Interception made by Ray, and out of play for a corner. He was in a similar position there, Luke Shaw, to where to the position he scored against Italy in the European Championships final a few years ago. Didn't fancy taking the shot off though on this occasion, and it's out of play for a corner for Manchester United. It's one part of the game I think we've been missing a bit of quality, Rob. It's from set pieces. Corners, particularly from Manchester United, I'd argue have been pretty poor so far.
Yeah, I think Bournemouth have defended them well. I mean, you wouldn't say Manchester United are particularly an aerially dominant side. Harry Maguire the exception, perhaps. Lenny Yoro's the target. It's gone through a crowd. Is he judged to come off? Probably Lenny Yoro last. He's just the meat in the sandwich. Again, it's well defended. Difficult to get a meaningful header there. It's also difficult to work out who it touched last. But it's another... I think that's a decent area for the ball to be played into. Bournemouth had obviously worked out who not to allow the chance to head it. And the two centre-backs being one of them. Lenny Yoro the closest, but again, pretty well defended. Not the worst delivery on that occasion. It gave Yoro a chance, but just didn't have the strength in the end.
No, didn't. He's only scored the one goal for Manchester United. Lenny Yoro, that came last season in that thrilling Europa League game against Lyon. Yet to score this season for the Red Devils. And on that occasion, wasn't particularly close, shall we say, to finding the back of the net. As Bournemouth looking to try and move the ball away from their own half. Truffert left-hand side, back into midfield for Christie. Away from a couple before trying to feed Truffert again down the left-hand side. An overhit pass, though, from the Scotland international. And Manchester United have the ball back once again. But a loose touch from Casemiro sees the Cherries with possession once more. Ball towards Evan Nielsen, intercepted well by Yoro. Long downfield looking towards Senesi. Flicked on by Truffert as the header was won by the Argentinian. Now here's Evan Nielsen. Appeals for offside from Harry Maguire. Linesman, I think, initially says no. Now Lenny Yoro puts the ball out of play for a throw-in over on the far side, and yet it will be a Bournemouth throw. Although, what's the referee doing here? Is he stopping it to allow a change to be made? No, I'm not sure he is. The camera, though, on the side of the pitch is just panned to Mason Mount and Benjamin Šeško. I've said that I think this game is suited to Benjamin Šeško. Maybe less so to Mason Mount, although he is a supremely talented footballer, isn't he? The Manchester United number 7. He's had a torrid time with injuries of recently. Barely featured since joining Manchester United, but he started to look good under Ruben Amorim before injury struck once again. Here come Bournemouth once more down the left-hand side. It's with Amin Adli, looking to try and drive into the penalty. A lovely chip ball to Ryan Christie. Then a return flick looking towards Adli. Will find its way to Jimenez, straight towards goal, wide of the post. They almost worked that brilliantly there, Bournemouth. But in the end, the ball finds its way to Alex Jimenez, who scored just the once this season in the Premier League for Bournemouth. And, well, he wasn't close to making it two.
No, he's never on target. He's trying to curl it round Cunha, but it basically just hit it straight past him. And Lamans didn't look in too much trouble. Brian Obama put a sort of clearing tackle in there, and that's not exactly where Manchester United would want their number 9 playing inside his own box. But yeah, they haven't started particularly fluently either side, but I think there's a fraction more threat in the early stages from Bournemouth to the second half. I haven't seen their subs warming up. Maybe Andoni Iraola is pretty happy the way his side finished that first half, and of course have started the second half reasonably well. On the attack again.
Yeah, they come now with Tavernier. Ball down the left-hand side for Adli. First time ball is absolutely dreadful. It's skewed off the left boot of the Moroccan, straight out of play for a goal kick. It's not the first time a player in red and black has done that this evening. First time balls from Bournemouth just haven't been the one tonight, and too many occasions they've been in decent positions before the ball has flown out of play for a Manchester United goal kick. Talk about Bournemouth substitutes, Rob. They've got a pretty decent bench this evening. It has to be said, the likes of Inez Unal, Eli Junior Krupi, Alex Toth, Ben Gannon-Doak and David Brooks, all decent forward options. Ben Gannon-Doak returns to the squad. He was on the bench against Bournemouth but didn't feature.
He returns to fitness, having not played a competitive game of football since that thrilling 4-2 victory for Scotland in World Cup qualifying. So good to see he's back to fitness, and we'll potentially get to see him this evening, although I'm sure Antonio Iraola is keen to manage his return to first team football. That's a lovely header from Rayan to feed Evan Nielsen, who's flicked the ball away from Maguire. Evan Nielsen now held up well by Kobbie Mainoo, but he's moving forward well. Here's the Brazilian. Here's Rayan, tries to feed Alex Scott. Good interception comes in from Fernandes, but still Bournemouth come forward. Then Casemiro challenges well on Rayan. Christie gives the ball away. Then Cunha gives the ball away, but Casemiro is there to mop up once again. Cunha then will flick it round the corner, looking towards Fernandes, and he almost gets there ahead of James Hill, but a good challenge comes in from the Bournemouth centre-half, and he's won his throw-in as well on the near side. This game is still entertaining. I want to reiterate that, but it very much feels like it's hit a stalemate in terms of neither side seem quite good enough to break the other one down, and it's just arguably two pretty strong defences causing issues for each other.
Yeah, I think Manchester United have gone a bit too long, too often. It's fair enough doing it once or twice to perhaps try and get the ball in behind, but I think they've given the ball away too many times to think that's a task that's working. Dalot's bringing it forward from the halfway line now, so progressing the ball actually in possession. Manchester United haven't had much attack in this second half. They've got some now. Just as I'm saying that, Christie forces Casemiro back to the halfway line, and Bournemouth have regrouped. But yeah, I think Bournemouth will be there happy, the two sides, the way the second half has gone. But of course, the first goal will be key.
Yeah, it certainly will. Cunha balling towards the penalty area. Burma was charging for it, but it's away from the Cameroonian. Now maybe a counter-attack opportunity for the home side. Here's Evan Nielsen. Turns away well from Yoro. Feeds Adley. Adley into Tavernier. Tavernier one-on-one with Mainoo. Wants to turn towards a United goal, but he's held up well. Links up though with Christie. Feeds Scott. Scott now onto the near side for Rayan. Rayan one-on-one with Luke Shaw. Ball in behind. Feeds Tavernier. Strike comes in from Lamans. And I think the offside flag has just gone up against the former Middlesbrough man.
Yeah, it looked like a nice pass though from Rayan, didn't it? The weight of it. Maybe Tavernier could have been a little bit more aggressive towards the ball. I mean, he long busted run. Yeah, he is offside. I say it was a nicely weighted pass. In fairness to Tavernier, he had to just wait a fraction, and Lamans closed him down. Obviously, if he'd passed it a fraction sooner, Rayan, that's probably a better opportunity in that sense, because Lamans would have had more distance to get and close him down. United straight back on the attack at the other end. Cunha jigs between two. Is he pulled back? He is pulled back. Jimenez grabbed his shirt. The referee pointed to the spot. Yellow card to Jimenez. What on earth was Jimenez doing? He's not complaining about it. He was... was it a nutmeg? Maybe it was frustration, but the arm clearly came out, grabbed the jersey, and right in front of the referee.
Yeah, it's dreadful defending from Alex Jimenez. Right after Bournemouth have put together the best move of the second half. Long ball forward to Cunha. He's brought down well, but he's surrounded by two in black and red. Decent bit of skill to get away from Jimenez and Scott, but Hill is still square, straight on, ready to deal with the Brazilian. And Jimenez... what is he doing pulling Cunha down there? It's still a difficult opportunity for the former Wolves man, and I can only assume that the 20-year-old panics and pulls him down. That can be the only justification for that. It's his 9th yellow card of the season. Bournemouth have been fantastic in this second half. I said before the kickoff in this second half that I thought the first goal would potentially decide this one. He's now given Manchester United the perfect opportunity to get it, and the last man you want stepping up in front of your goalkeeper for a penalty is Bruno Fernandes, especially given the form he's in at the moment. Big opportunity for the United captain to give the Red Devils the lead. An hour on the clock. Bruno Fernandes takes a deep breath, steps up behind the ball. Georgi Petrovic ready to face him. Fernandes takes another deep breath, certainly calming himself down. It's a straight run up initially, but I can imagine he's going to arc it to the left. Indeed he is. Fernandes, stuttered run up, steps up to take it calmly into the bottom left corner. Bruno Fernandes gives Manchester United the lead. Cometh the hour, cometh the man. It's Bournemouth 0, Manchester United 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's that sort of trademark slow run-up, isn't it? And I think he's waited to see which way the keeper's going to go. It's not down in the corner, but I think he's waited for the keeper to make a move, so he's just gone the other way. I mean, it's a silly challenge from Jimenez. In fairness, I don't think he knows quite what's behind him, but he doesn't even try and hide it. He's just grabbing. It's not as if it was a brief second. It was just too long, right in front of the referee. Maybe if he'd let go almost instantaneously, different story. But yeah, he's in the book, and you can't really have any complaints. Ninth yellow card for him. There's only been 2 yellow cards in the game, and it's no real surprise that Casemiro's got United's and Jimenez has got Bournemouth's. But crucially, Manchester United have the lead, and that might lead to potential changes. I mean, I don't think Manchester United have started the second half as well as Bournemouth, and yet Bournemouth are trailing.
Yeah, absolutely. Weirdly enough, it's only Bruno Fernandes's 8th goal of the season. They've all come in the Premier League for Manchester United this campaign. I'd have thought he'd have gotten more than that. He probably deserved more than that given the season he's had in terms of on-the-pitch performances, but it's an 8th goal of the season for the United skipper, and he is in some form at the moment, isn't he? Leading Manchester United at the moment to what looks to be a 3rd place finish. It has to be said, I said in the pre-game amble coming into this one that 3 points now wouldn't do much for United in terms of league position, but what it would do is it would seriously mount the pressure on Chelsea, Liverpool and Villa to try and close the gap. As things stand, it's a 6-point gap down to Villa in 4th. It's an 8-point gap, an even bigger gap down to Liverpool in 5th, and a 9-point gap down to Chelsea in 6th. So at the minute, in terms of that race for Champions League football, United look very well placed to secure their spot in Europe's Premier competition next season, and it always, I think, does you a favour to play first in races like this. And well, that's exactly what United have done this weekend. Currently in perfect position to put pressure on their opponents, and are looking to try and get a quick fire second here. Cunha moving down the left-hand side. He's got Fernandes and Mainu to lay the ball off to. Uses Fernandes. He fires a lovely ball over onto the far side for Ahmad. Brings it down nicely, one-on-one against Adrian Truffert. Adley's come back to support against the Ivorian. Casemiro now, first-time ball, deep in towards the penalty. Cunha's up. Heads comfortably wide of the post and out of play for a goal kick. But now all the onus is on Bournemouth to just try and get the ball back and try and move forward as best as possible. But they don't look at the minute like they're in much of a position to do so, because United have got the goal, and since getting the goal have controlled the ball.
Yeah, I think that's a decent chance for Cunha in the end, but I was a little bit surprised that Petrovic didn't come off his line. I know Jimenez is there, but he's probably heading that at the edge of the 6-yard box. Obviously they're buoyed by that goal, Manchester United, but they'd really want a second, because obviously we know what Bournemouth can do. They do look particularly dangerous. They've got pace down both flanks. They've had chances in this game, although here goes Cunha down the left-hand side into the box. Jimenez gets across, blocks it behind just the corner. You mentioned that the trailing side might have to commit, and that could play into United's hands, but I don't think they're playing particularly fluently, and they've given the ball away a few times. Even just before a goal, they're giving the ball away. So I don't think this game's over just yet.
Yeah, absolutely. I talked about United looking to try and get a quick fire second. The team that did get 2 quick fire goals are Preston North End in the Championship. They were 1-0 down thanks to an early Sorba Thomas goal, but a quick response from Alfie Devine in the first half, and then 2 quick fire goals in the second, one from Osmajic and one from Alfie Devine to complete his brace. Sees the home side lead Stoke by 3-1 at Deepdale. Try and keep updated on the scores throughout that one. But as I mentioned earlier, the focus is on this game between Bournemouth and Manchester United. Corner for United on the near side, taken short to Fernandes, but it's a quick 1-2 return ball back to the United captain. Here's Mbermo now, chip ball into the box, header up comes from Tavernier, and then eventually the ball is gathered by Georgi Petrovic. Antonio Raiola, interestingly enough, has just sent Adam Smith to go warm up and get ready to come on. I mean, I mentioned earlier on the attacking depth that Bournemouth have got on the bench for the first time in quite some time this season, given the injury problems that they've had. So go send Adam Smith out to warm up. I can only assume that's just to make sure Alex Jimenez doesn't get sent off for doing something daft. But to me, you've got to go for it, and bringing Adam Smith on is hardly going for it. As Ryan Christie now picks the ball up in midfield for the Cherries. Ball over onto the far side now for Truffert, onto halfway for Senesi. Now it's with Alex Scott. United, since taking the lead, when Bournemouth have had the ball, have stepped off a little bit and just allowed the Cherries to get a hold of the ball and wait for the mistake to come from the home side. And he'll continue to do so now as Jimenez will go back to the halfway for Hill. Hill points to where he wants plays before giving it back to the young Spaniard. Hill once again just inside Bournemouth's half. Rolls it along the halfway line for Senesi. Senesi down the line for Adley. Quickly back to Truffert. Now here's Senesi. Chip ball forward is brought down well by Christie. Now Evan Nielsen. Really poor decision to try and backheel it back towards the Scot. And now a chance for United to counter-attack. Long ball sent forward. A nice ball sent forward to Ahmad. One-on-one with Truffert. Wants it on his left boot. He's been brought down the penalty. Surely another penalty. Referee says no. Play will continue. Bournemouth come forward. VAR will of course have a look, but that look for all the world. That was an incredibly similar chance to the first penalty. Here now comes Tavernier driving forward, trying to respond for Bournemouth. Rayan now trying to get away from Luke Shaw. He's got options on his left. Uses Truffert over on the far side. Drives towards the penalty area. Cuts inside. Feeds Christie. Christie on his right boot. Straight towards goal. Into the back of the net. And Bournemouth are level. And it's Ryan Christie with it. Lovely move from back to front. VAR will still be checking the penalty down the other end. But as things stand, it is Bournemouth 1, Manchester United 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great finish. It's only just crept inside the far post. Maybe it went through the legs of defender, and Lamens saw it late, but he didn't quite get across. It's in the back of the net. Obviously, we haven't had a chance of a replay yet of the penalty. I mean, I don't envy referees because, of course, players go down very easily. It's a bit of a push and a grab. Is that enough? He's landed on the ball. Of course, they've gone straight down the other end and scored. And you'd argue Diallo's a little bit out of position there. And obviously they've scored in the break. It's either a goal or a penalty. It's not going to be one of the two, is it? It's a strange one because I don't envy referees. I personally don't think a touch means a foul, which of course footballers seem to think it does. And he is touched and he's gone down. It depends what VAR official you're going to get. They've already conceded one penalty, so Bournemouth will be absolutely livid if it's a second, particularly as they've scored from the ball not going out of play. But this is a big one, I suppose, for the VAR official. Bournemouth, of course, celebrating the goal right now, and we have no confirmation one way or another. The game hasn't restarted. Christie's having a chat with Cunha. Presumably that verdict will come soon. The referee, has he just been called across to go and have a look at the... No, he's given the goal. So the penalty is not given as a penalty, and Bournemouth have equalised.
They have equalised. I mean, it's a really interesting one. I thought for all the world in real time there was a penalty, and I have to say on the replay, does he go down a little bit soft? I don't know. I just think if you give the first one, you probably have to give the second. Bournemouth don't care though. They're back level. I thought that the first goal would decide this one, but it hasn't. And United now straight away looking to try and get back ahead. And Burmo inside the penalty area is challenged well. Now maybe here come Bournemouth on the counter-attack. Tavernier trying to come forward. Appeals for handball against Casemiro. Nothing given, but Bournemouth win it back. Here's Adley now down the left-hand side. United is stretched. Adley inside the penalty area. One-on-one with Yoro. Ball towards Tavernier is intercepted well by Maguire. And Yoro can get cleared to the edge of the penalty area. Now, maybe here come Manchester United on the attack. Dallo switch ball over onto the left-hand side for Cunha. Jimenez reads the first touch well and will look to try and just play it down the near side. Good defending from the Spaniard. Fernandez though will gather. Plays the ball down the line to Cunha. Now all of a sudden Bournemouth look a little bit stretched. Cunha trying to get the ball into the penalty area. Holds it up well. Trying to get away from Jimenez. Good challenge from the Spaniard. What a game we've got on our hands now in the Premier League this evening. Fascinating game with just a quarter left to go, which means I'm now going to hand it over to Rob to take us through to the end of the 90 minutes.
Yeah, looks as though Bournemouth are going to make a triple change, I think, right now. Sheshko, it looks as though he's going to come onto the field of play any moment too. But it does look like Bournemouth may well make a triple change. Obviously, it's a corner kick to Manchester United. Brian Mbemo, it looks as though he's the man making way. Not been his best game, but he probably hasn't had the service that he might have done on another time. But he'll be a little bit frustrated. Different kind of front man though for United now, and of course with a corner he'll add some as extra physical presence in the box. Of course, Brian Mbemo has often been the last man defending a Manchester United corner, if that makes sense. It's a Manchester United corner, and it's almost as if and Bamo's been in the centre circle as the last man. That's happened a couple of times, but of course Sk will go straight into the box. 1-1 at the Vitality. 71 minutes ticking over. Bournemouth holding fire on their changes. Fernandes with the delivery towards the far post. Oh, it's in the back of the net. Harry Maguire has scored. I think it took a glancing touch off a Bournemouth defender. Might have been Hill, but it's hit the forehead of Harry Maguire into the back of the net. Manchester United are back in front.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see from the replay, but I'm not sure Harry Maguire knows much about this goal at all. He'll be absolutely delighted nonetheless. However, United are back in front just as quickly as they were pegged back. James Hill with his head in his hands. It must have been him that's nodded this onto Harry Maguire, unless it's maybe come off of him last. I'm not entirely too sure. Let's have a look from the replay. Corner swung in from Fernandes. It's the best of the lot this evening. No, it's not off Maguire. It's off of James Hill by the looks of things. It's flicked on by Senesi, and yet it's off the head of Hill, who I don't even know what he's doing. He's just out-muscled by everybody. I tell you what, it's a great header from James Hill. It has to be said. Maguire would have been proud of that. Yeah. Oh, he's done terribly, hasn't he? He's done absolutely terribly inside the penalty area, and that's the last thing Bournemouth needed. And all of a sudden, Antonio Uriel is probably going to have to rethink those changes. But you can't believe it if you're a Cherries fan.
Yeah, in his defence, he's between two attackers there. The problem, I think, that people will look at is he kind of turns his head away from the ball.
I think you've got to be a bit stronger, haven't you? I know it's Casemiro and Harry Maguire, but as a Premier League centre-half, I just think you've got to show a little bit more strength and impetus than to just kind of turn away from it and just let the ball hit you. It's messy from James Hill, and a player who's normally actually quite composed in that Bournemouth back four alongside Marcus Senesi. He's just lacking a lot of composure and strength inside the penalty area.
Smith is coming on for Jimenez. That was kind of telegraphed a few minutes ago. Looks as though Christie's also making way. Confirm those changes in a moment. I could have sworn it was a triple change, but try and get confirmation. Krupi's come on for, it is a triple change. Brooks came on, must have been off camera. So Brooks is on, as are Krupi and Smith. And Christie, of course, just equalised for Bournemouth just prior to, obviously, that goal put through his own net by Hill. A little bit unfortunate, maybe could have been better defended. It's 2-1 to Manchester United. Thought it did look like it was going to be a game with goals, even if it was 0-0 at half-time. The goals have gone in the second half, and there's still time for plenty more to go into. Bournemouth straight back on the attack. Of course, they're chasing the game a little bit now. 2-1 down with 16 minutes to go. Brooks has it, lays it back to Senesi, whose first ball ricochets back to him. Now he dinks it into the box. Comes back to Senesi again. We worked 2-on-2s with Manchester United players there and fizzed the half volley. Not too far over the bar.
No, not too far at all. We've seen a lot of really nice 1-2 touch moves, haven't we, in this game from both sides. But I have to say, I'm not entirely sure I was expecting any sort of move like that from Marco Senesi this evening. Not a bad bit of play at all. I'm intrigued by these changes. It has to be said, by the way. I like them from Uriel. They're certainly going for it. But Krupi on for Christie is a very attacking change. Brooks on for Adley. I guess you'd say it's like for like, but then it just asks the question as who's playing alongside Alex Scott in that double pivot. It looks as though he's Marcus Tavernier. It's not a very strong double pivot. It has to be said that it's two players who are going to look to try and dribble with the ball and move it forward quickly. So it's attacking, but it's not the most physical change you could have made.
Yeah, just a reminder of the triple change. Brooks, Smith, Krupi on, Adley, Jimenez and Christie off. Of course, Jimenez was on a yellow card, so he is now not treading the tightrope. A free hit for Smith, perhaps, to take one for the team. 15 minutes to go. Well, that's of the 90. There might be a bit of stoppage time too, of course. Only 1 minute at the end of the first half. It's with Tavernier feeding it out to Smith, pretty high up the field, although he checks back and returns the ball to Tavernier, who goes across to Senesi. Thought about an early ball forward, instead finds Krupi, inside to Scott, back to Senesi, back to Scott, who turns and shoots. Oh, and it's hit the underside of the crossbar, hit the back of the keeper, gone wide of the post. And that's a matter of millimetres away from a wonderful equaliser from Scott. They have to settle for just the corner.
I mean, that is unbelievable from Alex Scott. He is so unfortunate that's not found the back of the net. Strikes it so sweetly on his right boot. And then for it to come off the underside of the crossbar, off of Sene Lamans, and then behind for a corner. How many times do we see that come off the goalkeeper and head into the back of the net? Oh, they'll feel it should be 2-2. Bournemouth, so unlucky.
Tavernier with the corner towards the far post, but easy gather for Lamens on this occasion. And he wanted to release the ball quickly, but Brooks kind of prevented that from happening. He gives us another replay of the attempt from Scott moments ago. He's just pinged it with the instep, looking for the top corner. He nearly found it. Lamens couldn't get there. And it was a little bit fortunate that the ball didn't ricochet back into the United goal. That was off the woodwork. So Bournemouth millimetres away from equalising. Manchester United still lead 2-1 though with 13 minutes to go. Now Casemiro's caught in possession by Scott and Krupi. Scott feeding out to the right hand side. Ryan, who's got Smith bombing ahead of him, uses him a decoy left-footed shot, charged down by Shaw, and that'll end up all the way on the halfway line, with Hill having to come all the way across from the centre circle. Obviously, Smith has bombed downfield. There's a sense that Manchester United are defending deep and in numbers. And, of course, then, as I say that, Diallo tries to put a bit of pressure on Senesi, who does have support from Truefair. Nice 1-2 with Brooks. Truefair in a central position. Nutmeg pass. Finds Krupi, his shot charged out. It's an ambitious attempt, 35 plus yards out from goal. It almost stayed in Bournemouth possession, but Bruno Fernandes working back deep finds Casemiro. It's a poor pass from him, overhit towards Šeško, who I'm not sure has touched the ball since he entered proceedings. But the way things look set up at the moment, it's Bournemouth attack versus Manchester United defence.
Yeah, and I'd worry if I was Manchester United a little bit. And here's exactly why. Maguire brings down Evan Nielsen. Yeah, that's the penalty. And it's a red card for Harry Maguire. It's all gone wrong. I was just about to say, I don't think Manchester United can sit back and defend Bournemouth and try and hold out on 2-1. I think they've got to try and peg Bournemouth back. And that's exactly why. They're too easy to bypass. Ball played through to Evan Nielsen, who controls it brilliantly, gets goal side of Maguire, brings Evan Nielsen down, does the England international. Stuart Atwell, in my opinion, at least on first glance, has no choice but to give him a red card and give a penalty.
Yeah, I mean, Manchester United will be arguing about the contact situation at the other end, of course, when they thought might have had a penalty. We haven't had a replay yet. Harry Maguire hasn't left the field. I don't think it's clever that Smith is getting involved with Bruno Fernandes. Clearly he's enjoying it. Bruno Fernandes is trying to argue his case to the referee. It was a lovely move from the Cherries. And he's a bit close, isn't he, Harry Maguire? Look, I mean, if he's giving that as a penalty and a red card, VAR has got to give the other one, surely. I know it's post and they can't go back in time. But if they didn't give the first one, why are they giving the second one?
I mean, I agree with you. I agree. I thought that the other one was a penalty as well. I don't really know what much there is to say about that. But I also don't think Harry Maguire can argue a huge amount about that. At the end of the day, the back four's a complete mess. Yoro gets caught way too tight to Eli Junior Krupi, and the ball through to Evan Nielsen is fantastic. And Maguire caught too flat-footed. Honestly, I was literally just about to say that they haven't got the players to just sit back and soak up the pressure. They had to keep playing the same way. Manchester United, you had to maybe look towards making some changes. Could you bring on somebody like a Xerxes or a Mason Mount to get the ball down the other end of the field? They've not done it in time, and now a brilliant chance for Bournemouth to equalise once again.
VAR's obviously sided with the official's decision. Now, of course, he didn't give Diallo's penalty and they didn't overturn it. The referee has given this penalty and they haven't overturned it. Krupi stepping up to equalise for Bournemouth for a second time, not him personally, and he sent Lamens the wrong way, found the side netting too. Excellent penalty from Krupi. It's 2-2 into the final 10 minutes, but perhaps crucially for Bournemouth, they've got a man advantage too.
Yeah, it's going to be a really tricky 10 minutes now for Manchester United with a man less and the momentum on the side of Bournemouth. You feel this could be a real test of character. Fantastic penalty from Eli Junior Krupi. He's having a fantastic breakout season, isn't he? the young Frenchman, and another example of his ability, heavily involved in the build-up play, and slots away the penalty brilliantly, only 19 years of age. And yet he's got himself a 9th Premier League goal of the season. Disaster for Harry Maguire. He's been recalled to the England squad this week. Really, you'd assume, looking forward to going away with England. But when he comes back, he's going to be unavailable for Manchester United. And now, changes are afoot for the visitors. And this is what baffles me. I know they're down to 10, but we've just said they haven't got the players on the pitch to hold out and just put bodies behind the ball. Again, people will say that they have got a man less, so they have to try and do something. But they're bringing on Aidan Heaven and Manuel Ugarte to try and shut up shop and secure the 2-2 draw. I just don't understand this at all. It's Cunha and Casemiro that are departing. Casemiro, you can only assume, because he's on a yellow card. To me, Rob, this just seems crazy from Michael Carrick.
8.5 minutes of the 90 to go. 2-2 at the Vitality. Ugarte and Heaven on Casemiro and Cunha. As Luke just said, the 2-2 depart. Obviously, still will be some added time as well. And Bruno Fernandes gets the game restarted. I suppose it's fairly like for like in one sense. They needed to bring on another centre half, obviously. And perhaps no surprise that Cunha was the man to make way from a more advanced position too. Casemiro, of course, was on a yellow. So nobody's on a booking at the moment on the field of play. Bournemouth are on the attack down their left-hand side with Brooks, who drills it into the box, looking for the run of Krupi, just slightly overcooked. And stepping over it, Lamens just let it go behind for a goal kick to Manchester United, twice in front, twice pegged back. But now, of course, down to 10 men. I still can't believe the second penalty that Manchester United got was turned down. If the referee's going to give the Harry Maguire one, there's zero difference. I just don't understand it, and why has VAR not reminded Atwell that he didn't give the first one? Hold on, ref. But anyway, Bournemouth do not care. They've been hard to beat of late. I know they've been drawing a lot of games recently, but they've been hard to beat. And of course, pulled away from relegation trouble that they might have been on earlier in the season. As a headed back pass from Hill will reach Petrovic, despite Sk threatening an intercept. Manchester United were starting to defend in numbers prior to the equaliser, of course, the second equaliser. I don't think that's going to change being a man down, as it's with Scott on the halfway line. Across the centre circle, Hill, Smith, with Rayan outside him. Smith plays it to Rayan. He uses the Smith run as a decoy. It's back to Tavernier. Now across to Senesi, bringing it forward, back to Tavernier, back to goal though. All the men in white behind the ball at the moment. 6 minutes to go plus stoppage time. And Bournemouth very much on top in terms of territory and possession at the moment. Maino tries to put a bit of pressure on Tavernier, but in the end retreats back into his defensive setup. Over on the left-hand side, that's a better ball from Tavernier, but then Krupi plays it back to the halfway line. I would say this is quite a patient approach from Bournemouth, bearing in mind the time on the clock.
Yeah, I thought they'd move the ball a little bit quicker, just as I say. That's a decent ball looking towards Rayan, who I think who was closer to fouling Luke Shaw than Luke Shaw was to fouling him as he hit the deck. I thought they'd move the ball a little bit quicker, pop the ball around with a bit of pace like they were doing before the red card, but all of a sudden they seem to think that a red card seems that an extra 10 minutes is added on at the end of the game. I don't know. Slightly odd from Bournemouth. It looks as though they have got a sub ready to come on over on the far side, and I'm just trying to make out who it is. I think potentially it's Ben Gannon Doak, but we will wait and see. It would make sense for it to be the Scottish international, given the state of the game. Just as I say that, here come Bournemouth on the attack once more.
Brooks on the left hand side, got time and space, cross, took a deflection. It's teed up by Evan Nilsson. He thought, well, I say teed up, he slightly miscontrolled it. Then he thought Krupi was going to get to the ball before him, left it. Ugarte stepped in and is bringing it away for Manchester United. Šeško's gone offside. Fernandes to Ugarte inside the Bournemouth half. Perhaps not where you'd expect the United holding midfielder as he backheels to Fernandes. Trick doesn't quite work. Smith dispossesses him, albeit going back towards his own corner flag. finds Hill infield for Scott. Space on the left-hand side for Brooks, who's got him behind Diallo and is herring at the United box. He's still going, left-footed shot, lack conviction, blocked by the back of Dalot. And Diallo has it for Manchester United. Finds Dalot, who dinks it down the line towards Sesko, beaten to it by Senesi. Dalot gets there ahead of Krupa. He's then caught. Free kick to Manchester United. 4 minutes to go, plus stoppage time. 2-2 at the Vitality. Game, of course, was split. 8 goals were split in the reverse fixture. We thought we'd get goals. Well, there's been 2 penalties, a red card, other claims as well. Other chances rather, not claims, as Rayan is making way for Gannon Doak. And is that enough time? 3.5 minutes plus stoppage time.
Well, he's a player with explosive nature, is Ben Gannon Doak. Maybe not enough time, but maybe Iraola just want to see how his team responded to the red card. For a team that have drawn their last 4, I really would have thought Bournemouth would have been quite keen to win this game, but it almost feels like they're in a similar position to United, where they're happy to accept the points, which I don't really understand. They're in a fantastic position to take all 3, to be honest. And maybe the substitution of Gannon Doak makes them realise that actually United are there for the taking. As Fernandes starts bickering with his fellow midfielders, it feels like now may not be the time for Fernandes to start barking orders like that. But Bournemouth very much do need to get a move on, because passing the ball from side to side in midfield is not going to break down this Manchester United side.
Bournemouth with a point would be 10th. A worse goal difference than Newcastle above them, and only a point clear of Fulham below them. That's as things stand. That's with 2-2. But it's 2.5 minutes plus stoppage time. There might yet be a winner. Bournemouth the boss in possession at the moment. That's a good ball into the box for Evan Nielsen. His touch takes him out of the area, left-hand side. Support is from Brooks, right on the touchline, into Scott, back towards the halfway line and true fair, but time and space for him, as United are defending deep and in number. Hill brings it forward, feeding it out to Gannon Doak for his first touch. 1-on-1 with Luke Shaw at the moment. Tries to go around the outside, checks back. Shaw and Fernandes between them. That's an interesting clearance from Fernandes. He found Šeško in the D. And now they're trying to play some 1-2 football just on the edge of their own box. Mainu back to Shaw, who's immediately closed down by Evan Nielsen. All can do is help it down the line. Does actually find Šeško. And now Mainu. Didn't realise that Evan Nielsen was still at his back. Shaw dinks it down the line, but Hill beats Fernandes to the loose ball, and now Scott's picked it up. 25-30 yards out, very central at the moment. Feeding it to the left edge of the box, and Brooks, true fair on the overlap, fed down the line, pulls it back to the far post. Gannon Doak volleys it back into a dangerous area. Heaven heads away, and Fernandes and Smith in a race for the ball. I think Fernandes has basically put Smith under enough pressure on a bouncing ball that he can't quite control it and keep it in. And it'll be a throw into Manchester United as the game goes into the final minute.
Yeah, I reckon we're looking at maybe 5 or 6 minutes at most to end this one. But it really does feel like we are hitting a little bit of a lull. Credit where credit's due. I was concerned for United with that red card that they were throwing on Agate in Heaven just to try and sit bodies back, and they weren't going to be able to do so because they weren't able to do so with 11 on the pitch. Well, they've done very well, and they do still have the out ball with Amad Diallo on the field. That's what Fernandes just tried to do there. Truffaire's read it well though, and now he's coming forward with a bit of pace.
Ball inside to Krupa, who's been tugged a little bit by Yoro. Still finds a pass out to the left-hand side. Fired in. Is that a shot? It's pounched by Lamens. I don't think Brooks is actually going for goal. I think he tried to get it in just fast and quick into a dangerous area, but just stayed straight on the ball. Lamens comes to the edge of his box. He's put Snow on this one, launching it high into the air. Hill is the only one that challenges for the header, and slightly miscontrols it out of play for throwing on the halfway line, left-hand side. 9 minutes of stoppage time.
I'm not sure where they've got 9 from. I really don't. That we didn't have a lengthy VAR check for anything. We've only really had substitutions being made and like an odd couple of checks. That has caught me off guard.
If I'm a Manchester United fan now, I'm quite panicked because I think that will really get the crowd up at the Vitality, and Bournemouth will think, do you know what, we may as well go for this now.
It gives both sides extra time to go for the winner as Bournemouth play it into the box. Lenny Oro intercepts though, and he's played it back towards, I was going to say Evan Nielsen, but it just about made it to Lamens. That was very risky indeed. Evan Nielsen is still in the box. This one is a high hanging cross from the left hand side, and that's much easier for Lamens to claim. For a moment I didn't think Yoro had seen Evan Nielsen, and he almost played it too. It might have been an offside against Bournemouth actually, because Lamens has put the ball down, and Rawdon, he's not been dispossessed either, so it must be a free kick to Manchester United. I can only assume somebody was offside in the build-up to that last cross. Manchester United play it downfield, but it's won very easily by Bournemouth. It's an early ball towards Gannon Doak, Shaw with enough pace on this occasion to ward off that particular threat. Manchester United trying to play their way out of trouble. Kobe Mainu has it. The wrong foot Smith. He goes down under a little bit of pressure, and it will be a free kick to Manchester United. And it's going to be a yellow card. Is that a yellow card foul? I don't know. I don't know what was going through the referee's head, to be honest. He's made two different decisions on penalties. Now this is a yellow card. I mean, it's a foul, yes. Is it a yellow card?
Well, I think the argument is that he's coming forward on the counter-attack, but I'm slightly with you on that. I'm not entirely sure I feel that's a yellow card, but I never know what a yellow card or a penalty or a handball or anything is anymore. So we'll go with Stuart Outwell on this one, I guess, just so we can have a bit of peace.
Smith's won the ball back anyway off Fernandez, but then Shaw stepped in and won it off Gannon Doak, and now Fernandez and Shaw have come down the left-hand side for the Red Devils. Shaw keeping the width. He's found now. There's only Sheshko in the box to aim for. He's gone low and hard, but it's blocked by the back, really, of Hill. Out of play, throw into Manchester United. 3 minutes of stoppage time just about completed. There's meant to be 9. We don't know where 9's come from. There hasn't been an injury. There's been a couple of VAR checks, maybe. And of course substitutions. There was a treble change made by Bournemouth in one of those, and a double change by Manchester United. So it's not as if they've been separate substitutions. Fernandez has it from the throw-in, but Shaw didn't carry on his run, and it's played by Fernandez into touch, and that'll be a throw-in to Bournemouth with around about 6 minutes to go. Michael Carrick looks fairly relaxed considering the game, but he knows it might be a tough final 6 minutes with his side down to 10 men. Bournemouth working it out to the left-hand side. Brooks infield to Scott, slowly inching forward, perhaps just want to play the perfect pass, cross in towards Evan Nielsen, who out jumps Heaven in the end, but can't quite control the header, looping over the bar, and that is behind for a goal kick.
Yeah, it is. It's disappointing from Evan Nielsen because he did get a decent leap there up against Aidan Heaven. I have to say, if you are Manchester United, I do think you are a little bit concerned going into the upcoming games. Now with Harry Maguire sent off, I believe he'll miss the next 2 because it was a straight red card. So I think he'll miss the game against Leeds and the game against Chelsea. That means that United are almost certainly going to be set for 2 games in a row with a back 2, a centre-back partnership of Yoro and Heaven. Now, I don't think Aidan Heaven's a bad player, but he's still clearly very young and inexperienced. Lenny Yoro has struggled this evening, to say the least, and I've hardly been convinced by him over his Manchester United career so far. So I think if you're Manchester United, while yes, it's going to cost you 3 points this evening, the red card from Harry Maguire, or 2 points, I should say, by the looks of things, it is also potentially going to cost you even more points in the future.
Sesko's just been yellow carded for a body check on Senesi, and it's on the halfway line, maybe just inside the Bournemouth half. It's his second yellow card of the season. 4 minutes of stoppage time remaining, 2-2 at the Vitality. Bournemouth on the attack against the 10 men of Manchester United, who are defending deep and in number, trying to keep Bournemouth out. Now a free kick's given against Bournemouth. Gannon Doak perhaps leaning into Bruno Fernandes. I'm not sure what the referee's doing. Does he know what a foul is?
Well, I don't know. I didn't even see what the issue was with that, to be honest. And Antonio Raiola clearly doesn't either. That was a really odd decision from the referee. Diallo is now going to be given
3-minute rest now as he comes off the field. Mason Mount's going to come on to replace him. I think he looked like Amad Diallo tonight. He very, very quick, very, very skillful. Just sometimes the decision making just wasn't there from the Ivorian. I mean, that chance in that first half, well, what should have been a chance when he tried to control it with his left boot, when it was there to control on his right. These are things that he just has to learn to really take the next step up. But he's obviously a very, very useful player for Manchester United.
Yeah, he will of course think he won a penalty as Mason Mount jumps into Senesi there. Referee didn't penalise that one. It wasn't quite as obvious as the Sheshko one maybe, but he's not looking at the ball. Gannon Doak's just been penalised again. Free kick to Manchester United, halfway inside the Bournemouth half. Into the final 3 minutes of the minimum of 9, of course. Don't know if the referee's going to add any more on. It's been one of those sort of performances for Manchester United in the sense that they've looked good in little patches, never quite controlled the game as the free kick is headed away. Mount's picked it up completely off balance. He somehow kept his foot in and he has the ball near the corner flag. Plays it back to Bruno Fernandes, who goes for goal. Driven shot on target. It's blocked by Scott, who stayed down. The referee might stop play for a potential head injury. It was hit hard enough, and Scott obviously feeling it. He sat up now, looks a little bit groggy, but the impact's only just happened. 2 minutes of stoppage time remaining at the moment. Might be a little bit more now.
I hate that from Stuart Atwell. He was immediately aware there was a head injury and he waited to see whether Bournemouth went on the counter-attack. I just can't. The rule is whether a team is on the attack or not, no matter what's going on in the game, you have to stop it when there's a head injury. And he saw it, and you could see he had the whistle in his mouth. He was almost waiting for the Bournemouth attack to end. And it's just, it's my biggest bugbear in football at the moment, is referees thinking that attacks are more important than head injuries. And it really, really winds me up, because I just think it's poor refereeing and it's not taking into account player safety at all, which ultimately is what a referee is there to do. Alex Scott clearly has been struck really quite firmly by this ball and is quite dazed and confused, at least on first glance. It looks though he's okay now. He's going to have to take the arbitrary 30 seconds off the side of the pitch, having been caught really quite firmly by that effort from Bruno Fernandes. It really, really does irritate me with referees when they do that. It doesn't make sense whatsoever when they've been explicitly told what the rules are. But thankfully, Alex Scott looks as though he's going to be okay to continue.
Might have been 90 seconds or so that little stoppage. So we're into the final minute of 9. But there might be a little bit more added on. Of course, the game is going to restart with Bournemouth in possession on the edge of their own box. And maybe there's still one last attack in this game. Ball's on the left. Krupi's done well to keep it in, but because it was getting away from him, the pass is backwards initially. Now it's with Hill. On his D, plays it across to Senesi. Closed down by Sesko. Brooks a 1-2 with Senesi. Now out to Truffert on the left, near the halfway line. Poor pass from him, blocked by Ugarte. Not a great ball from Mount, but kind of deflects into the path of Mainu. Just helps it into the Bournemouth half. It's going to be returned by Hill to Evan Nielsen, who finds Krupi, who's brought down by Ugarte. That's a free kick to Bournemouth, right on the touchline, left-hand side, but not that far from the corner flag. 30 yards maybe, a chance to load the box perhaps, as the game goes into the 10th minute of stoppage time. Scott of course is back on the field, and he might indeed be taking this corner. There is this free kick rather. There is a left-footed option too, and it depends how they want to test Manchester United more. Brooks could be the left, maybe Scott with the right. Full time at Deepdale, Preston 3-1 winners on the night. They had been in free fall. It's a little back heel to Scott. Brooks has stayed on the left, but Scott is still going. Finds Gannon Doak. It was behind him though. Now it's Senesi, who stands it up to the far post. Momentarily headed away, and then Ugarte blocking a clearance. It's gone behind for a corner. Game is into the 11th minute, and there won't be much more time added on. You wouldn't have thought. Is this last chance saloon for the Cherries?
They've got lucky there, Bournemouth, because they worked that free kick terribly, and if it wasn't for Agate's completely miscued clearance, that would probably be game done and dusted. But still, one last bit of defending to do for Manchester United. They have to stay switched on. They've got the height advantage, but that doesn't always prove to be in your favour, and Bournemouth can be dangerous from deliveries into the box.
Going to be a Scott to swing it in towards the near post, volleyed away, only as far as Gannon Doak, who feeds it back out to Scott, but that might have been overrun, and indeed it is. That has gone behind, and that signals the end of the game. Bournemouth not quite capitalising on the man advantage. It wasn't quite there long enough. Full time at the Vitality. Bournemouth 2, Manchester United 2.
Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting on the match result, the first player to score, the last scorer, correct score, double result, total goals market, handicap betting, or any other of our exciting market, it's fun to be involved. Don't forget, when the match kicks off, you can sit back and enjoy superb independent studio commentary while also enjoying our in-play betting opportunities. Good luck. Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested in betting on the match result, the first player to score, the last scorer, correct score, double result, total goals market, handicap betting, or any other of our exciting market, it's fun to be involved. Don't forget, when the match kicks off, you can sit back and enjoy superb independent studio commentary while also enjoying our in-play betting opportunities. Good luck. Our next football commentary match is getting ever nearer, so why not take the opportunity of having a bet on the match? Whether you're interested